Greetings, brothers and sisters. Tonight is September 22nd, 2024. It's 5:11 p.m. This is the mass meeting for UNIA-ACL Division 421, Dr. Julius Nairi, CBPM Division here in Atlanta, Georgia. Let me get our social media going 1 second. Pardon me. Mass meeting course of African philosophy done and go live. Tonight, as I said, September 22nd. This is our second mass meeting in the month of September. And we are in this time of the year where when we look at history, we look at the documentation. This is where Mr. Garvey was hosting his leadership course, a course of African philosophy, officially starting in 1937. But it was the month of September when he had his classes. And here at Division 421, we continued that tradition by starting our officers training course in the month of September. So that'll be the focus for tonight. As always, let me open up our meeting properly. Get my documents. Okay, Brother Malik, I'm on call on you to help us with the pledge. If you can lead our pledge, I will bring up the where's my mouse at? Technical difficulties, one moment. Okay, can't see. Okay. Well, Malik, if you would please lead us in our pledge to the red, black, and green flag.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit.
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green.
to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa
and the liberation of her scattered Black children.
and the liberation of her scattered Black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants
I accept for myself and my descendants
the teachings of universal African nationalism.
The teachings of universal African.
And I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
And I promise that our children will be instilled with the knowledge of African people.
In order that the cause of our struggle
will
neither falter nor fail until all Black people are free and united through one God, one aim,
and one destiny.
Thank you, Brother Malik. Excellent job. You may be seated. Everyone may mute your lines. Following up to open up our meetings is our UNIA Rituals. I will, if you would, please allow me to work through our rituals. First will be from Greenland's icy mountains. From Greenland's icy mountains, from India's coral strand, where Africa's sunny fountains roll down their golden sand. From many ancient rivers, from many palmy plains, they call us to deliver their land from error's chain. Shall we whose souls are lighted with wisdom from on high, shall we to men be knighted, the lamp of life deny? Salvation, O salvation, the joyful sound proclaim, to earth's remotest nation has learned Messiah's name. Waft, waft, ye winds, his story to like a sea of, and you, ye waters, roll to like a sea of glory, it spreads from pole to pole. To o'er our ransomed nation, the Lamb for sinners slain, Redeemer, King, Creator, in bliss returns to reign. And next would be a prayer. Almighty God, whose kingdom is everlasting and power infinite, be gracious unto the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and so rule the hearts of thy servants, the President General, and the members of the High Executive Council, and all others that are in authority, that they, knowing the responsibilities of their office, may above all things seek the honor and welfare of this race, and grant that our people, considering the authority they bear, may faithfully and obediently honor them in accordance with our laws through Jesus Christ our Lord, who with thee, the Holy Ghost, liveth and reigneth ever, one God without world. Amen. Okay. And then finally is shine on eternal light. Shine on eternal light to greet our souls this day, dispel the gloominess of night, and drive our doubts away. Our longing eye prepare when war and strife shall cease, to view the morn soon to appear, the new era of peace. Thy glorious church, O God, no kingdom can remove, made without hands, the blessed abode, the harbinger of love. Of all the gifts that flow from thy great throne above, we ask thee on our hearts bestow the gift of perfect love. My soul the light receives, and dares the truth to prove. Not in blind ignorance believe, but knows that God is love. Come, love, and give new birth to man's destructive mind. Spread where confusion reigns on earth, goodwill to all mankind. Shine on, eternal light, thy penetrating ray shall return the hour of darkest night into eternal day. Amen. And for context, what we just did as far as rituals, not necessarily including the pledge, but that's still part of it, comes from the text that we'll be discussing tonight, the Course of African Philosophy, page 169, section is titled History of the UNIA. Mr. Garvey says, you should always observe the proper form of opening and closing a meeting, as well as the proper form for conducting the meeting of the association. They are as follows. Number one is opening hymn. So this is a song that's supposed to be sung. We read it, but we will evolve to singing it. From Greenland's Icy Mountains is the opening. Second is the reading of prayers and the ritual or the hymn sheet of the association. Mr. Garvey says, when the program is not too crowded and the time for meeting is lengthy, you may go through the whole form of prayers. If there is not sufficient time, read only such parts of the prayer as would enable you to go through the program without length. After the prayers, sing either Shine On Eternal Light or O Africa Awaken. Then go into the rest of the program. When you are closing the program, close with the prayers of the association for the purpose and sing the African national anthem. So, as directed by Mr. Garvey, per the UNIA, a chartered division, we should observe the proper function or proceedings of a meeting. So, as I said, sorry, let me share again. Tonight's meeting is about this text here. Title of the text is Message to the People, Course of African Philosophy, edited by Dr. Tony Martin. Does anyone know if they could describe this text in one sentence, how would you describe it?
Enlightening.
The beginning.
The enlightening, the beginning.
I would say good instruction.
Good instruction. One sentence, not necessarily one word. But one sentence. Sorry.
I would say the UNIA Bible.
UNIA Bible. That's not bad. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. No one is necessarily wrong in what they said.
Yes, I'd like to chime in.
Ross Marvin, President
The
Ross Marvin.
teachings for leadership in the UNIA given by our founder, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey.
A plus from Ross Marvin, student and graduate of course of African philosophy, taught by Honorable Senghor Baye, the 10th President General and nice successor to the Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. Yes, Ross Marvin, in essence, as Ross Marvin said, the teachings of the Right Excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey. The text, one of the descriptors used in the text, it says the course of African philosophy is a unique document. With the exception of his poetical works, it is the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote. That is one of the values that we ascribe to this text. When Brother Art uses the term of a Bible, to Garveyites, that can be true. But if you can imagine, the Bible is kind of the way I look at it. Philosophers and opinions is for me is more of a Bible, because it is the things that Mr. Garvey said that others wrote down. So when you look at Christ in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those are individuals writing about what Christ said. I look at the course of African philosophy as a little bit more special in regards to, if Christ was able to write his own book, what type of significance will we put on that? And that's the way I equate Message to the People. This is the book that Mr. Garvey himself was able to write, not a compilation of his work, but him actually sitting down for a period of time, working from start to finish, as the text says, on this particular topic. So everyone is correct, but the takeaway, this is the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote. Questions, comments so far? Okay. Let me check my slides. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Just want to make sure my next slide. Okay, yeah. Let me this is a question. I got to cover the answer.
What page are you on?
That was in the, let me see. Give me 1 second. I've got the page up here. Page, it's I don't know if it's the foreword or the preface, page XIV, so 14. Let's see, X. That it looks like preface. In the preface, it's yes, in the preface. We can go to the text as well. Great question. So let's go to the text. Let's see here. Message to the People. Yes, got to keep your, as Brother Shaka Barak teaches, you got to keep our tools. We got to keep our tools around us. So I've got the Message to the People pulled up, the digital version. I will share the screen in just a moment. Okay, here we go. Wanted to make sure I had the right spot. Okay, preface. And the preface, as we should know, is written by Dr. Tony Martin. The foreword is written by Honorable Charles L. James, who was the 5th President General. We'll talk a little bit about him more tonight in relation to the course of African philosophy and the succession of leadership and the teaching of leadership in the UNIA. Preface says, the course of African philosophy, and this is, yeah, straight from the beginning. The course of African philosophy is a unique document with the exception of his poetical works. It is the closest thing to a book that Marcus Garvey ever wrote. So straight from the text in the beginning, first thing that Dr. Tony Martin wants to emphasize is the source of this text. As it says, this is authored by, when we look at the books, if anyone's got the book, you can look. Although the book was published 1986, 46 years after Mr. Garvey's death, as it says, yet 46 years after his death, it is being published here for the first time. So although it was 46 years after Mr. Garvey's death, this book is still, Mr. Garvey's still giving credit for authorship. And I'm not sure of many texts outside of, as it says, his poetical works in which Mr. Garvey is giving credit of authorship. Any other questions? We'll move back to the presentation. Okay. Okay. For all Garveyites, students, and this reminds me, there's a section of the introduction that I skipped over, as far as our rituals and things that we want to do on a daily basis. What is the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League? If you could say it in one sentence, what would that be? What is the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League? And there's only one right answer with this.
Government.
Government.
It's a movement that supports the Negro people worldwide.
Movement that supports Negro people worldwide. No one is wrong. How did the Universal Negro Improvement Association describe itself in its inception? And we still continue that description today.
I would say the UNIA-ACL is described and identified by our preamble.
And what does our preamble say, President Ross Marvin? Does anyone know what our preamble says? Officers, do we know our preamble?
It is a confraternity.
The UNIA is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro peoples of the world.
Continue, Second Vice President, please.
And the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man, but with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Second Vice President. Absolutely. So per our preamble, Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society. All answers are correct, but Ross Marvin is most correct. Second Vice President, obviously, reading from the preamble, 100% correct. Universal Negro Improvement Association, prior to evolving into a government, into a nation, in its inception, and still, we are still a society. We have to think about what that means. Brother Art alluded to our aims and objectives of a confraternity. That's the first aim of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, is a universal confraternity among the race. So as we create this society, as we organize, as we bring our people together under this umbrella of the UNIA, we have to understand basically the requirements of that society. Mr. Garvey, in the course of African philosophy, says society is made evident by its laws. I believe. Let's let's look at this. Let's look at this, and this is in the lesson number 8, titled "Social System." Society is an organization of mankind to safeguard and protect its own interest. When society is organized and made evident by regulations, rules, and laws, every member of that society must obey said rules, regulations, and laws. This is page 69. I believe this is the beginning of lesson 8. Yes, social system. So Mr. Garvey gives us a definition of this society, and these are things that we have to put together as Garveyites and as leaders. So some of the things we have to think about: what are the rules and regulations of our society? One of those rules is active membership, dues. So that's the very base. Well, one of the base requirements. Obviously, African would probably be the very base requirement. All Africans are a part of this society, are a part of this family. But then active membership brings you within a higher level of this society. But then when we speak about leadership of this society, the presidents, president generals, assistant president generals, secretaries, financial secretaries, treasurers, youth coordinators, African Legion. These are all important auxiliaries that have a high level of responsibility, as well as a high level of accountability. And one of the things that Mr. Garvey talks about in his lessons is the type of character that we must embody as leaders. So that was society. That was society. Let me go back to the presentation. So we should remember that the Universal Negro Improvement, per the preamble, is a I was going to say confraternity, is a friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society founded by persons desiring for the general uplift of Negro peoples of the world. So officers, we have to memorize that preamble, but excellent job, Second Vice President. Okay, we will continue. Some things to keep in mind. This is my personal opinion. This is not anywhere made official, but I call these individuals the 3 giants of the course of African philosophy. 3 men that we should know about, 3 men that we should study, research, remember, and honor. First and foremost, obviously, being Marcus Garvey, who is the as he says in the text, he talks about this in lesson 5, titled Christ. He talks about an example, but Mr. Garvey is the example. When we talk about leadership in the African race, leadership in our race in modern time, for us, for me as a Garveyite, for me as officer in UNIA, I can't think of anyone that has done more than the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey in regards to leadership, in regards to organizing specifically for our people. So if we're going to learn leadership, if we're going to learn organizing, if we're going to learn that specifically for our race, for our people, who better to learn that from than Mr. Garvey? There's a lot of leadership lessons being taught nowadays, a lot of motivational speakers, a lot of entrepreneurs and things like that. But at the end of the day, outside of financial wealth, I have to ask what level of greatness they've accomplished that can compete with Mr. Garvey, specifically, and again, specifically for our race. So when you think about any other race, obviously they're disqualified. But for our people, our race, leadership, what we should be doing as a people to help ourselves, I can't think of any greater example in modern time than Mr. Garvey. So he's the example. He's where the course comes from. This is his course. Charles, questions? Please get mute if there's no questions. Charles L. James, we'll learn we'll learn his importance because I've got some questions, but he went on to become the 5th President General of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. He was the President General at the time when this text was authorized to be published. So that's one of the things that we should understand outside of some things that we'll discuss about him later. But in regards to us having access to the course of African philosophy in the structure that it's in, it comes down to these 3 men. One thing that we have to understand, and if you look up Robert Hill and the UNIA papers. Robert Hill did the Marcus Garvey and the UNIA papers. He also published a version of Course of African Philosophy. So I believe this was around the same time. And Charles L. James, it even says this in the text that others were trying to distort the legacy. So Charles L. James authorized the next brother, Dr. Tony Martin, to edit the Course of African Philosophy and make sure that it was published for our people and for our race. So Mr. Garvey is the author. Charles L. James authorized the publishing, and Dr. Tony Martin is the actual editor and the individual that got the text published. So any questions on these 3 brothers so far?
Yeah, did Charles L. James write any books?
Not that I'm aware of, but not to say that he didn't, but not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Is anyone, President Ross, are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of him writing any books, but I am aware of that he's a speaker that was just like Marcus Garvey. When Charles L. James spoke, you could hear it for miles because Charles L. James was no joke as our 5th President General. And also, we should be reminded that he got the highest grade in the course of African philosophy.
All right, Ross.
And one of the original 11 students for the course of African philosophy. But Charles L. James was a very powerful brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So we got to probably do some research on Charles L. James and his works and his writings. But as Ross said, I am familiar with his not only his speaking engagements, but his ability to continue to organize. And partially, a lot of that I know of came through his teachings of the Course of African Philosophy. So he went on after Mr. Garvey's death and taught in different regions, primarily Midwest, Indiana, Illinois, in that area. But he continued the work, and to my knowledge, he was, as Ross Marvin said, he was a great orator. Okay. So one thing that research has shown is the influence, I guess, of what was going on in the time of Mr. Garvey. And there was a man at the time, a very successful Caucasian man, Dale Carnegie. But when you look at, there's some similarities between Dale Carnegie's text, which will touch, he's holding that text right there, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Mr. Garvey's text, or of Course of African Philosophy. One of the quotes that Dale Carnegie has in his text is, "The aim of education is not knowledge, but action." One of the things that Mr. Garvey says, the value of knowledge is to use it. So both are saying, we can't just be armchair revolutionaries, have all of the knowledge and sitting back, but we must put this knowledge to use. We must put it to use. They're both saying that. How to Win Friends and Influence People was published October 1936. Message to the People, Course of African Philosophy, published September 1937. And Mr. Garvey, in Message to the People, he talks about reading other texts and reading the texts of other cultures, but also being careful as to how we approach that. And this was How to Win Friends and Influence People was the top-selling text at that time. So we can assume that there's some influence between the two, but it's not the major point. One of the things that officers were required to do for the School of African Philosophy was to take an oath. This oath was preserved by one of the sisters in the first class, Sister Eleanor White. She was commissioner of the state of Illinois, so she's another ancestor that we should remember and honor, Sister Eleanor White. And the oath says, and I'll read this, I've read this several times, I, Brother John Hargrove, do solemnly swear before Almighty God that I have entered upon the instructions of the African School of Philosophy conducted by Marcus Garvey for no other purpose than to serve the Negro race through the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League, of which he is President General, and that I shall not use the knowledge so gained to promote or advance the interests of any other organization. I shall confine myself always to the service of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and work within the framework of the organization for any promotion I may desire for the improvement of my race. I shall never divulge or reveal any of these lessons I receive to anyone, and shall never allow the lessons or record thereof to fall into the hands of anyone, and shall safeguard the same with my life from falling into the hands of other races. I shall always use all my energy and ability to advance the interests of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and shall never be in rebellion against it. And to this I swear myself my honor and sacred trust, and should I fail this oath, may the just reward be meted out to me, so help me God. And this oath is accredited to the date of September 23rd, 1937, and today is September 22nd, so that's another reason why around this time of year we review this text. But this is what our ancestors were doing 100 years ago. Well, almost 100 years ago. Okay, couple questions. Hold on, let me see some. Sorry, give me 1 second. We talked about the aims and objects. And I'd like to continue that discussion because the course of African philosophy is based on one of the aims and objects of the UNIA. And we will get to that, but we should know our aims and objects. So let me go back to sharing. So officers, members, Garveyites, what are the aims and objects of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League? And please try to do it from memory if you can without looking at our constitutions. What are we here doing? Why are we here? What is our purpose as a UNIA?
To uplift the race.
On fraternity part.
Uplift the race. Confraternity, I think, is the word I'm looking for. What about the confraternity?
That's the only word I can think of out of the first part.
All right, that's not bad. I would add one word to it. Universal, well, a couple words. Universal confraternity, and then for the race. That's it. That's the whole thing. But universal confraternity for the race, organizing, bringing our people together. I believe Mr. Garvey says all of our people are meant to be a part of this body. No one is to be left out. So all for one, one for all. That's exactly what he says. So yes, universal confraternity. What else what are our aims and objects besides organizing and bringing our people together?
Improving.
Improving, yes, that is general in what we're trying to do. How do we want to improve?
Economic emancipation.
Yeah.
Economic emancipation. Economics is towards the end. We're on number 2.
Yeah, I remember it was a debate between if it was prompt or promote the spirit of pride and love.
Brother Malik is on it. Brother Malik is on it tonight. Yes. Number 2 is to promote the spirit of pride and love, or prompt, whatever, the spirit of pride and love. So we organize our people. As we organize our people, we remember to teach our people to love themselves, love each other. Not only teaching that, but we show that. Our families, we promote strong African families. But yes, we must teach our people that, as Mr. Garvey said, God created us perfect the way that we are. He didn't make a mistake. We have an obligation to love ourselves. So yes, to teach pride and love, or to promote the spirit of pride and love. What's number 3 or 4? These are similar.
To reclaim the fallen.
Reclaim the fallen. Are you reading, Brother Malik?
Yeah.
All right. At least you're honest. Thank you, my brother. Reclaim the fallen. Anybody know number 4 from memory? We probably don't, because if we struggled on the first 2, there's no way we know 4, 5, and 6 and stuff like that. All right. We did good. We did good. Our aims and objects, officers, we need to know these. Per the Constitution, objects of the Universal Negro Improvement Association African Communities League shall be, number 1, to establish a universal confraternity among the race. Number 2, to promote the spirit of pride and love. 3, to reclaim the fallen. 4, to administer to and assist the needy. So 3 and 4 I consider charitable. When we talk about a charitable society, all of these can be considered forms of charity, but that's how I remember 3 and 4. 5, which we should know, and I've got that read for a reason, to assist in civilizing the backward tribes of Africa. 6, to assist in the development of independent Negro nations and communities. 7, to establish commissionaries or agencies in the principal countries and cities of the world for the representation and protection of all Negroes, irrespective of nationality. Number 8, to promote a conscientious spiritual worship among the native tribes of Africa. Number 9, and this is what we're doing. This is where the course of African philosophy comes from. To establish universities, colleges, academies, and schools for the racial education and culture of the people. And number 10 is to conduct a worldwide commercial and industrial intercourse for the good of the people. So when we talk about our global economy, that's number 10. And number 11, finally, to work for the better conditions in all Negro communities. So number 11, anything that's not listed specifically that's for the benefit of the Negro race, African race, is a aim and objective of the UNIA-ACL. Any questions, comments on aims and objects?
I have a question.
Yes.
With regards to the red letter.
Yes. Why is it?
Yeah. So is the civilizing the backward tribes of Africa, is that pertaining to the Black people that were not born in Africa? All the Black people outside of Africa?
Well, what that means has been a long time discussion, and it hasn't necessarily been defined. But the reason why that's red, does anybody know, officers, we know why that's red?
I would say,
Go ahead.
I would say, from the flag, the red means like the blood of African people.
Yeah, well, no, it's not like that. It's just red to be highlighted. Someone said something?
Because it's amendable?
Amendable, you on the right track. It's amendable.
Yeah, well, I said it's up for debate.
Up for debate. Okay. Great answers. The reason why that is red is because currently, when you look at your constitutions, that aim and object has been removed as of 2005. So well, there
Okay.
used to be 11 aims and objectives.
Mhm.
Currently, we have 10 aims and objectives. So the entire aim, which stated to assist in civilizing the backward tribes of Africa, has been removed in the updated constitution.
Okay, so therefore, that's why there's no real reason to what that means.
Brother
With the
says-
backward tribes of Africa, that's what I was trying to understand.
Yes, that's
So that,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, because it's been
Too
removed.
condescending. To me, I thought it was condescending the first time I read it.
Yes, and I honestly I did too. There was a lot of contention in regards to us claiming to civilize our, brothers and sisters, quote unquote, civilize our brothers and sisters on the continent. Yeah, there was some contention about what that supposedly meant. So
because that's what the colonizers said when they colonized Africa, that they went in to teach them about the Bible and to civilize them.
Correct.
They were civilized before those people showed up.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
But it's not, there are some that can describe it positively, so to speak. So it's not all a bad thing, but some of our elders speak to it in regards to what the intention was behind the origin of that aim.
Yeah, I could see that. I was thinking that it was just the way that they spoke in that time to acknowledge people that weren't born in Africa, to include everybody around the world who's Black.
There you go. There you
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes,
The diaspora.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Let me proceed to the next question. And this is all, we haven't even gotten to course of African philosophy yet, but all of this is fundamental UNIA Garveyism. All right. We did kind of, never mind. Let me not say that. Because we touched on what the book was about or who it was for. So next question is who was the course of African philosophy created for? Message to the people, the course of African philosophy. We know that it was created by Mr. Garvey. Who did Mr. Garvey create the text for?
Say the leaders, the officers.
The leaders, the officers. Brother Najee, where you get that from?
No, I mean I read the Message to People. I have the Dover Thrift edition, but I know he mentioned it in his book that it was aimed towards the officers of the UNIA to be trained to help the members.
Brother Najee is pretty much right on. Anyone want to add to that briefly?
Magnificent Black people worldwide.
Magnificent Black people worldwide. Yes, ma'am. Okay. In the text, let me go all the way down so we get the page. Oh, I don't have the page here. I can find the page though, but it's in the book. Honorable Marcus Garvey made several attempts to educate some and re-educate others who will be charged with the responsibility of leadership in the UNIA. This sounds like this is in the very first page. So this is probably page IX. Mr. Garvey, sincerely felt that no one should be held responsible for his actions until he or she is educated or trained to perform those responsibilities. And since the UNIA had become the largest responsible movement in racial history, its leadership should be thoroughly informed so that the proper information would be dispensed. So as Mr. Garvey wrote this text in 1937 or compiled it in 1937 at the age of 50 years old. But the text talks about Mr. Garvey, this is Mr. Garvey's chance to look back, to have what they call the unfortunate hindsight. But his years of organizing, he was able to reflect from what the text calls a confidential conclave, but a time of privacy, where he's able to look back and begin to prepare the next generation for the leadership that's required. So, any questions so far? I gotta. What is this? I don't have my slides ready. So. I mean, they're ready, but I gotta move the boxes around. We're not gonna do that one. Okay, you'll go to this one. Question would have been, what year was the School of African Philosophy, first year of the School of African Philosophy taught? And these questions, officers should know these questions. These are the questions that we go over in training. These are the questions that officers should know in order to pass the examination. We should know who the text was written for, who it was written by. We should know the editor. We should know Charles L. James. And I'll touch on more of Charles L. James later. But all of this stuff is exam questions. What was the first year the School of African Philosophy was taught? Answer is in 1937. After an extensive European tour and the establishment of the parent body in London, England, the founder called the regional conference at 355 College Street, Toronto, Canada. At this conclave, he selected the following officers who, in his judgment, were qualified to give him the nucleus of creating what he proudly named the School of African Philosophy. This is page 10 of Course of African Philosophy. There were 11 students, 10 graduates. First was Arthur Clement Moore of Toronto, Canada. So we should know these ancestors. All of these brothers and sisters are ancestors now. Number 2, which is highlighted red, Charles Linnell James of Gary, Indiana. Number 3, James R. Stewart of Cleveland, Ohio. Number 4, Thomas W. Harvey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Number 5, Nathaniel Grissom of Chicago, Illinois. Number 6, Sarah Richardson Isaacs, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Number 7, Ethel Waddell, Chicago, Illinois. Number 8, who we should know from the oath, Sister Eleanor White of Chicago, Illinois. Number 9, Sister Teresa E. Young of Cincinnati, Ohio. Number 10, Brother Abraham R. Roberts of Toronto, Canada. And number 11 was Brother Joseph, I spelled that terribly, Joseph L. Gray of Charleston, Missouri. But we should also know Brother Joseph did not graduate, but he was continued as a student. So there were 11 students in the first class, 10 graduates. Anyone know the significance of the 3 individuals that are highlighted? Charles L. James, James R. Stewart, Thomas W. Harvey of the first class of School of African Philosophy. We've got some in the chat.
Were those President Generals?
First Assistant President General, Brother Omasius is correct. And Second Assistant President General, First Assistant President, no, First Vice President. Let me switch it up. We're talking about President Generals, then I got to switch to division. First Vice President, Brother Omasius. Second Vice President, Brother Malik, absolutely correct. These 3 individuals went on to become President Generals. Anyone remember which order these brothers end up becoming President Generals? Do we know the order of succession of our President Generals, of our 11 President Generals, but at least the first 5?
I think it was Harvey Stewart, then James.
Harvey Stewart, James. So 3, 4, 5. What you think? Like a 2, 3, 4, or just Harvey?
No, 4, 3, 2. I think Harvey was first, wasn't it?
Oh, all right. Okay, all right. I got you. Harvey Stewart, James. Not bad. All right. Another thing that we should know, this isn't a exam question, But again, as officers, there's a big responsibility. And as we talk about, as this society, we have regulations, we have rules, and I would think that we have a level of standards. So as we progress as officers, as leaders, there's some things that we should know. And our history is one of those things. What does Mr. Garvey say about history? A people without a lack of their history is like a tree without roots. But we should know the history of our organization, of our government. In our orientation, and that's another reminder for orientation. Orientation, I believe, starts next Saturday, but be taught by Third Assistant President General Brother Oster out of New York Division 432. Well, 432. And in orientation, we talk about, or we discuss the succession of the President Generals. So second, the successor to the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey was Honorable James R. Stewart, who was the second President General. Third President General was Brother William L. Sherrill. Internet connection unstable. William L. Sherrill, who was another great, he wasn't a student, of course, of African philosophy, but I saw his name in a lot of the historical documents and supporter of UNIA and of significance. Well, actually, when we read a letter later this evening, Brother Sherrill is related to that letter in some way. I forgot. The fourth President General was Brother Thomas W. Harvey. We should all know our international headquarters is named after President General Thomas W. Harvey.
Oh, it was Stuart Harvey James. Okay.
Yes, Stewart was second, right after Mr. Garvey. Brother Harvey was fourth, and we should know Charles L. James was the fifth President General of the UNIA. So of the first class of the 11 students, 3 of those brothers went on to become President Generals. That is the significant takeaway of the first class. And we're kind of talking about James R. Stewart. We're kind of more, the importance of Charles L. James will become more obvious. Questions, comments so far? Our President Generals of the UNIA. And currently we serve under Honorable Honorable Michael R. Duncan. Okay, all right. All right, continue. Ross Marvin answered this question earlier, but which student was the leader of the first class of the course of African philosophy, scored the highest grade, according to our records? Of the 11 students, of the 3 that went on to become President Generals, which do we believe got the highest score? Was the best
CLR James.
CLR James, what? You said CLR?
Charles L. James.
Charles L. James? Why you think Charles L. James?
I know it was mentioned earlier.
Hey, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. You're right. Yeah. Ross gave that away. You know what I mean? He was excited. But he's absolutely right. Charles L. James, as the text says, let the record show that this is Charles L. James speaking on himself in the foreword, received the highest grade. In every point of examination, I was graded an E. My classmates all agreed that I think that's my classmates all agree that I was the leader of the first class in the School of African Philosophy. So that's another one of the important factors of Charles L. James. He was the highest grading student, the best student in the course of African philosophy, taught by the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Questions, comments so far? Okay. In regards, let me see. I don't think we need to go there. Who was appointed? Yeah. Do we know who was appointed the authentic historian of the life and works of the Honorable Marcus Garvey? And who appointed that individual? We spoke on this earlier too.
Tony Martin.
Tony Martin. Who appointed Dr. Tony Martin?
Not sure.
Charles L. James.
Charles L. James. So again, the three giants, that's the way I remember it. Charles L. James appointed Dr. Tony Martin to restore and preserve the works of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But Charles L. James was the fifth President General. At the time when this text was being restored and edited, Charles L. James was the serving as President General. So answer, as the only surviving graduate. So Charles L. James was the only surviving graduate at this time of the first class. It is important for me to protect the interest of those who preceded me into eternity, and knowing that there are forces that are trying to distort history. So forces that are trying to distort history. To my understanding, this would be Robert Hill and the Marcus Garvey UNIA papers. We talk about the legitimacy of information, the legitimacy of history. We want to make sure that our history, we are able to tell our own story. So there's always, someone else can always tell your story, or you can tell your own. So this was our, not attempt, but this was us stepping up, realizing that others were trying to tell our story, and us stepping up and telling our own story. So forces were trying to distort history. This would be Charles L. James, hereby authorize Dr. Tony Martin, who has been recognized and appointed the authentic historian of the life and works of the Honorable Marcus Garvey by the Universal Negro Improvement Association in convention, to publish the written document with the understanding that the right be preserved for future generations, which is the charge of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, founder. So a couple things in convention. Officers, we should know the importance of convention. This wasn't just a executive decision made by the president, even though it could have been, or executive decision made by the president general. This was brought forth to the floor in convention and agreed upon by all delegates, well, not all necessarily, but a majority of delegates and representatives of the UNIA. So this was a joint collective decision to appoint Dr. Tony Martin for this work. To publish the written document with the understanding that the right be preserved for future generations. That is us. We are these future generations, which is the charge of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, founder. So the publishing of this text allows us to continue this work. And what is that work? That work is the training of leadership in the UNIA, and making sure that, we understand the path. If we consider Marcus Garvey a leader, we got to understand that he's taken us down a path, and a path and a leader synonymous is a course. He's taken us down a course. Now that he's no longer here with us as an elder, as he approached 50 and getting into his eldership, he decided to document that path, or document that course. And that is what we as leaders and as officers in the UNIA, that is how we continue to follow the works of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, is by following that path or that course that he documented in the course of African philosophy. Who owns the course? I think we touched on this. Who owns the course of African philosophy? Anybody want to touch on that? Who does the course of African philosophy belong to? Answer. The text says it is ours. The course is ours. This is Charles L. James writing. He says, whatever is written, distorted, or injected by unauthorized persons using devices other than the proper way that was given to us by the founder, and applying the benefits to their own personal benefit. Please understand that, quote, there's a destiny that makes us brothers. No one goes his way alone. All we send into the lives of others comes back into our own. So This is for us. This is for the leadership, and we must handle it accordingly. Who authored the course of African philosophy? We touched on that. Answer is Marcus Garvey. Yeah, we touched on that in the beginning. What does the course of African philosophy represent in the editor's opinion? And so in Tony Martin's opinion, what does the course of African philosophy represent? It represents, as it were, we're gonna find it here. All right. Nobody knows what the course of African philosophy represents in the editor's opinion.
The last will and testament, Messiah Garvey.
Thank you, First Lady Vice President. It represents, as it were, the last political will and testament of a man who stands without equal in the history of worldwide mobilization. I see the chat was going. Okay. CLJ. So this text for us as Garveyites represents the political will of Mr. Garvey. Obviously, we all have families, and we all have, your family will and what your children will inherit, your wife and your family will inherit. But Mr. Garvey also had a political will. He was a political leader for our people, and he knew that the work wouldn't be completed in one lifetime. So the course of African philosophy documents that political will. And again, for us as leaders, for us as followers, this is the, as someone said, the Bible that we use to make sure we're abiding by the rules and regulations that Mr. Garvey set forth. Questions, comments so far? Okay, we're getting ready. Let's see how many more slides. We got to move a little bit quicker. I don't think this is not important. The years of Garvey's birth and death. No, that's not that important. It's 1887 to 1940. We talk about this in the text as well. But officers, we should know Mr. Garvey's lifespan. But we should also know, again, as he passed in June 10th, 1940, this text was written or put together September 1937. So 2.5 years prior to his transition, this text was compiled. So it's not a young Garvey. This is the elder Garvey. What was the immediate purpose of the course of African philosophy? We touched on it already. What's the purpose of the course of African philosophy?
Was it to get the officers up to speed?
To get the officers up to speed, pretty much, yes. How else can we say that?
To give I would say like the needed training.
Needed training. All right, we close enough. Y'all are in the ballpark. Text says on page 16 of the this would probably be the preface. The immediate purpose of the course of African philosophy was to train a cadre of UNIA leaders who would carry on the great work of the organization after Mr. Garvey's death. So again, as the text says, the purpose of this was to carry on the work, to carry on the political will of Mr. Garvey. So it's great for us to be fans of Mr. Garvey. It's great for us to be respecters of Mr. Garvey. But for us to be followers of Mr. Garvey, for us to be leaders and officers in the UNIA, we believe that there's a higher level of responsibility. And the first level within that responsibility is the responsibility of knowledge, of knowing the rules and regulations, of knowing the procedures, of knowing the the order of events of a meeting, how to carry out a meeting, as we just learned, how to open, how to close a meeting. It's not just for us as officers. We have to go beyond having a flag, having a red, black, and green hat, having red, black, and green shoes, having a Marcus Garvey t-shirt, posting, Marcus Garvey quotes on social media. These things are great, but for us as officers, Mr. Garvey left us a manual in which we must follow. So we must put that manual and give that manual and that text a level of priority over other things. If we were to transition and pass on, and we left our progeny, as Mr. Garvey says, if we left our progeny a manual, I would think that we would want the following generations to look at what we wrote. There's a lot that we can see and hear about Mr. Garvey and about the UNIA, but what does Mr. Garvey, where can we find what Mr. Garvey says about himself? Where can we find the documents that the UNIA says about itself, the Negro World newspapers, the minutes from our meetings in the past? These are internal descriptions of who we are, what we stand for, and what we do. So, all right. What was Garvey's requirement to pass the courses taught, or what was the requirement to pass the courses taught by Mr. Garvey? So in Mr. Garvey's time, when he was teaching this course, what was the requirement for individuals to pass? What was Brother Joseph McClendon, I believe, of Missouri, what was he unable to complete in order to receive his certification? Because obviously it's not just a participation certificate. Everyone that participated did not receive their certification. What are the requirements to receive certification of leadership by Mr. Garvey?
The students had to write all the lessons out by hand.
Absolutely. That's the very fundamental requirement. Anyone remember the other? Not necessarily. Yes, it's listed, but it's not as important as what Sister Diane said. What do we do today? What do we do at the end of our training, 6-month training course of African philosophy?
The test.
Yes, sir. Examination. So Charles L. James says on page 12 that in every point of examination, he was graded an E. So it implies some form of examination. It could just be Mr. Garvey reading his handwritten notes, but it doesn't say that. It just says an examination. And it also says during the course of a month, each student was required to write out each lesson in his or her own handwriting. So we must understand that our ancestors not only sat through these lessons, not only listened to Marcus Garvey, not only answered his questions and debated with him, but they were also required to write out each of the lessons in their own handwriting. And is everyone clear on that? It's not necessary. This is something today it's not an official requirement, but for me, this, once you do this, there's not much that people can tell you in regards to your certifications in the course of African philosophy. If you wrote out the lessons, you did what our ancestors did, I would say that you're just as qualified, just as much as qualified as any other graduate of the course of African philosophy. But questions, comments on writing out the lessons? Okay. So how many lessons, in regards to writing them out, how many lessons or subjects were there in total, and what was the difference in the type of lessons? How many lessons did our ancestors have to write out?
42.
42. What's the difference? How many? But is all 42 in one section? What's the difference? Were there two different types?
Well, 22 of the 42 lessons was written lessons, and I think the rest of them was oral lessons.
Absolutely. 22 were written, and 20 indiscriminate, not in random. I just wrote that. Answer to the question covered, the lessons covered over 42 subjects. Much of it remained unwritten, for it was in the nature of a confidential in-house affair. Even the 22 lessons written reproduced here were guarded jealously from indiscriminate circulation, according to this, I believe this is Tony Martin, page 16. So 22 written lessons and 20 lessons that were committed to memory. Officers, now we get to test ourselves. If our ancestors were able to remember the 20 unwritten lessons, and they were able to write the 22 lessons, I feel like as officers, we should be able to remember the 22 written lessons. They should be committed to memory. So officers, let's go through this. No books. We're just going to walk through this very quickly. No cheating. What's lesson 1 of the course of African philosophy? And if you don't know which number and you just know that this is a lesson, we'll write it in there and put it where it belongs. What is lesson 1?
I think that has something to do with knowledge and education, kind of like.
Knowledge, education.
Intelligence.
Intelligence. Intelligence. Intelligence. We got knowledge, education. Y'all are close enough. Close enough. So y'all start working on the second one while I'm writing this one in. What is the second lesson?
I think that was leadership.
You think number 2 was leadership?
Yeah, that was the action we learned and then put it into action. So I'm gonna go with leadership.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I will go with leadership too.
Leadership is correct. What about number 3? What after Mr. Garvey teaches us leadership, what does he teach us in the course of African philosophy? Excuse my typing. He didn't teach us how to type, obviously. Typing is not one of the lessons. Lesson 3 in the course of African philosophy. After we learn intelligence, education, universal knowledge, how to get it, Mr. Garvey teaches us leadership. What do we learn third?
Elocution.
Elocution. Elocution is number 4.
I think 3 is the aims, like the for the UNIA.
Yes, sir. Aims and objects. So walking through this, intelligence first as a fundamental foundation. There's not much that we can do without intelligence. Number 2, leadership, the characteristics of leadership. 3, the aims and objects of the organization. So knowing what we stand for, what we represent. 3, elocution, being able to speak. Mr. Garvey says elocution is the ability to speak out, but he says if you have a story to tell, you should tell it well. Number 5, what's number 5? If our ancestors could remember 20, we should, come on now, we on 5. We should at least be able to throw out 10.
Is that Christ or God?
Religion? Yeah, God.
Religion, okay. Christ is number 5.
Okay, and the 6 is God. Yeah.
6 is God. Okay, yes, sir. I believe that's right. Hold on. I might be wrong. Let me check. I'm sorry. Y'all got me. I mixed
That's
those up.
God first.
Yep. You're right. God was number
There
5.
you go. You can't have Christ without God.
Yeah, right.
All right, and then number 6 is Christ. What will be number 7? Lesson 7. We learn about God, we learn about Christ, and God is more so about death, honestly, and our relationship with the eternity, as Mr. Garvey explains it. Christ is about the example. For Christians, Christ is that example. For
Okay.
Muslims,
So, if Christ is the example, so that would be character next.
absolutely. There you go. Character will be next. What do we learn about character?
You said, what do we learn?
Yes. Well, Brother Najee, you haven't gone through it with us, but if you read it,
I think,
for the
yeah,
shot.
I think that's when he mentioned about how to conduct yourself. Yeah, I think he gave some basically how to conduct yourself as a person.
Yes, pretty much a little bit of not ethics, but etiquette. Talks a little bit about etiquette, but it's the fundamentals of character and behavior, and being a representative, because that's what leadership is about. That's what's talked about kind of behind the scenes of the text is how to be a good representative of our race. All right, now we're getting into the tougher ones to remember. Lesson 8. After character, what do we need to know as leaders? What are some lessons that Mr. Garvey emphasizes in his years of experience in organization and leadership? What does he teach? It's the 8th lesson. Diplomacy. Okay, Brother Macy is throwing out diplomacy. Diplomacy is number 9. Diplomacy is number 9. So
Is a culture similar to like society, like a system in a way how we live, or
Social
I forgot what social system. That's it.
Social system.
there it is. Yeah, he had it. He was all like
you
all
said
around.
the words.
Social system. So when we talk about the Universal Negro Improvement Association is a society. What is a society? How is a society made evident? How is our society, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, made evident? And part of that is through our rituals, the pledge, our universal Ethiopian anthem. Yes, social system. Number 9 was diplomacy. What do we learn in diplomacy? Diplomacy is a very important lesson, by the way. I would argue one of the most misunderstood and misused lessons in the course of African philosophy. Discretion in leadership. I like that, Brother Macy's. Yes. Discretion in leadership. That's a great way of. But what is
It's dealing with nations.
Dealing with nations. That's where I'm going.
Did he mention communication in that chapter too?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But yeah, discretion in leadership. I'm over here. That's on number 10. Mr. Garvey talks about, I believe he used the words, the relationship between nations. So as leaders, as representatives of this society, how do we interact with other societies, with other nations, with other national leaders? So that's lesson 9. Often, and I'll say this, lesson 9 is brought within the organization. People try to use the tactics of lesson 9 internally, and I completely disagree with that stratagem. Diplomacy specifically says relationship between nations, and that's how we teach its use here at Division 421. Lesson 10, after we learn diplomacy, what do we need? What do we need to teach to our people? What do we need ourselves? money. Look, brother, man, you ain't. I know you ain't remembering all this stuff, brother Malik. You lying.
Let me look.
Are you really want looking?
No, I got it now.
Don't look. No, don't look.
Economy.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
Economy. All right, well, it's a wrap. I'm ready to answer all of them.
Nah. Don't look. You're doing good. You're doing good. I thought you were looking in the book, honestly. All right, economy. So Mr. Garvey touches on individual economy briefly, but also, economics. Organizational economy. But we should all know, as officers, as leaders, and we still struggle with this now. There's not much that we can do as an organization without finances. But we've also have to acknowledge there is some individual responsibility that must take place in regards to our finances. And as leaders, as we talk about financial secretaries, treasurers, presidents, business, coordinators, as we talk about having access to funds or, investing funds or utilizing funds, we should understand the expectations that Mr. Garvey lays out. So he has like a general rule of, if we're going to have an event, there should be a certain amount of profit. There should be a certain percentage of our income that we should be saving on a regular basis. But talks about the fundamentals of economics in lesson 10. Lesson 11, this is one of my favorite lessons. What's lesson 11? After we learn economics, diplomacy, social system, we're going out into the world, we're interacting with the world. What do we need to know next? Man. What do we learn about in lesson 11? Sister Diane, what we learn?
About it, where his trust issues came up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think didn't he give a example of, he went to the Bible too.
He did.
Cain and Abel.
Absolutely. Cain and Abel, yes. I think in this, I don't know if he talks about war. I think he talks about war in a later lesson. But yes, the history of man. In the first lesson, Mr. Garvey talks about how we should master history, read history incessantly until we master it. And he says, most importantly, the history of man. That's lesson 1. Then in lesson 11, Mr. Garvey comes back and re-emphasizes the history of man and talks about how, as Brother Najee said, and as the Bible describes, since the time of Cain and Abel, there's been strife between men and nations of this world. And he says that basically we should expect men to be wicked, or men and women or individuals. We should expect individuals and nations to be wicked and to be out for their own best interest. And we should understand that. And in that understanding, that will help to take away some of the fear in our interactions. So as we're managing diplomacy, as we're representing our society, as we've learned to develop character and look to our examples of Christ and God, we're good speakers. We represent the aims and objects of the UNIA. We're going to come up against individuals that don't agree with what we're doing and do not want to see us succeed. But Mr. Garvey basically says, that should be expected. And he also, in this lesson, he talks about education. And he talks about how unless we go through a process similar to the course of African philosophy, and that's why this process has been so important for Division 421, we have to know each other. We have to know the expectations of each other. We have to know the knowledge base of each other. We have to know what we consider good and bad. So, we have to have a common understanding. So that's what lesson 11 talks about, is man, the expectations of man. And in order to what I saw, in order to address or fix any expectations of wickedness in man, we must establish systems of education. And I use that word specifically because I didn't want to give a hint to what lesson 12 is. What is now? And if there aren't any other questions so far, lesson 12. Anybody remember lesson 12? What else do we need to know and learn and teach as officers and representatives of the UNIA? I know we're getting into the tough ones. There you go, Brother Macius. Brother Macius got that book. Institutions. Yeah, this is the tough part. So I expect the at least 1 through 10. We got to know that 1 through 7, definitely key critical. 1 through 10, that's a stretch, for new officers to know that, to memorize that. Number 12, the purpose of institutions. So as I said, I didn't use that word when I was talking about 11, but that is really what Mr. Garvey in lesson 12. This is the solution to a lot of our issues is institutions. The problems and the cause of a lot of our issues is institutions, poorly ran, poorly managed institutions that don't have the benefit of our race. That's not their intent. So Mr. Garvey says, if we continue to rely on other people's institutions instead of building our own, we are in essence saying that these institutions are better than what we can do for ourselves. If we continue to send our children to their schools, and we continue to use their hospitals instead of building our own, instead of creating our own societies and institutions, we are telling the world that we believe these institutions that have been provided for us are better than the institutions we can create for ourselves. So number 12, the purpose of institutions. If we're not talking institutions, if we're not talking programs that will develop into institutions, we're not carrying out the political will of Mr. Garvey. What is lesson 13? 13. This is where we start to think big. What are we doing in lesson 13? What are we thinking about? What are we talking about? Lesson 13.
The universe.
The universe. You remember anything? That was a very broad lesson.
He was talking about being a fractal, being a fractal of the whole. Something about where I guess we're made up of all of what's in the universe, but at the end of the day, we're just a fractal of the whole. Anyway.
Yeah, I like that chapter too. I know he talked about like searching. I think he gave like a good example of that about the mountains and valleys. Well, basically like searching for answers and searching for truth.
Yes, Sister Diane, even Brother Macius, we got to review lesson 13 again. I think y'all may be confusing lesson 5. Lesson 5 touched on the universal God and universal knowledge versus a particular. Universe did touch on that briefly, but I remember it being more so about as it said, I remember the sublime being in there, thinking loftily, having, solving the riddles of the universe, but thinking beyond the terrestrial. So having a mindset and a mentality that is not, above could sound arrogant, but is outside of the everyday norm. I think is the best way of saying that. So that was what Universe, I remember about University. It's challenging our thinking. Are we just thinking locally? Are we thinking microscopic, or are we thinking macroscopic? So as we talk about being a leader in the UNIA, Universal Confraternity, the jurisdiction of the UNIA is everywhere in the world where our people reside. So we can't be stuck, always thinking in our small sector, only what's going on around us locally. We have to be aware of what's going on globally and how these interactions affect what's going on locally. All right, lesson 14. After we learn about the universe, what do we need to learn as officers? And I would argue this is probably one of the most important lessons as officers in regards to getting things done and the expectations to get things done. There you go, Brother Mason. What's that, Brother Malik?
I said self-starter.
Self-starter. Mr. Garvey used the word self-reliance. We still, officers, we have different levels of understanding of self-reliance and how that looks.
Initiative, that's what it
is. Is it self-initiative or self-reliant?
Initiative.
Self-initiative.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Every man is his own responsibility in life.
Yes, we are our own responsibility. I believe he also says, before we ask for help, we should make sure that we don't have any ability within ourselves. So before we go outside of ourselves, we must make sure 100% that this is not something that we can produce, within our own abilities. So, and self, yeah. So
man is limited in his intelligence.
That's in self-initiative.
Uh-huh.
Man is limited in his intelligence. What else does he say? Is that talking about that's talking about keeping things to yourself?
No man can say that there is no God, because no man is like God. Man is limited in his intelligence at the most, and man knows how insufficient he is between life and death.
Okay. That's in the second section. Fear God and know.
Fear God and know no other fear.
Understand. Yes, but in regards to, as it says in the beginning of the section, we are responsible for ourselves. When we go to our Creator, Mr. Garvey teaches that you will be held responsible for your actions. So, let's not try to persuade others to do what we should be doing ourselves. We have to step up, leaders. We have to set the example. So we must be self-reliant. We must display self-initiative. We must display that example. Okay, self-initiative. What is the next lesson? This is in regards to interactions with people, how we present ourselves again. Personality, yes. What do we remember about personality?
I remember he talked about like having manners, how to have manners in front of people, as far as with eating, things like that.
Yes, he does touch on etiquette again. Anyone else?
The rules of hygiene.
Hygiene, yep. Being clean, being presentable. One thing I also remember is having a level of individual ownership. Basically, there is a standard way of doing things. There's a standard of how we lay out a meeting, but there's also a level of personality that we can bring. So Mr. Garvey wasn't trying to build robots or build exact duplicates of himself, but we are supposed to inject our own personality into these teachings. So when we talk about the aims and objects, we don't necessarily have to read it verbatim, but we can explain it in a way that makes sense to us and would make sense to the audience, but it's still true to the spirit of the text. So that's another thing that I took away from personality is Mr. Garvey gives us that freedom to somewhat be creative as long as we stick to the origins and the spirit. Okay.
Dignity and character.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the foundation is being presentable, being clean. Those are some things you can't necessarily get around. We have to be clean, we have to be presentable. But okay. 16, after we talk about personality, what are we talking about? This is in regards to kind of spreading the word, letting people know what's going on. How do we get the world involved? See you first. Propaganda. What do we learn in propaganda? Lesson 16.
Making use. Was it like for making use of media?
Was the media? Was the Negro world in the whirlwind?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Propaganda means to propagate. The importance of message and the ability to drive them. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the global scale of elocution. Elocution is your ability to speak to an individual or to speak to a crowd. But propaganda, that's your ability to speak to the world. How we write things, how we produce videos or recordings. So as Brother Malik said, our right now, Whirlwind newsletter, but how the Negro world was put together in that time. The Black Man magazine, which we can touch on. These were potentially worldwide publications. So propaganda is how we utilize elocution on a global scale. After we learn propaganda, let me see. Hold on, I remember this one. This is one of the things we got to worry about in the world. One of potential oppositions for that would, for our people. I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. What did Mr. Garvey teach us in lesson 17? What was going on in his time, 1920? What did organizers for the UNIA have to combat against? What was the great idea of
Kuhn and Pickaninny and all that.
Kuhn and Pickett.
Capitalism.
Image.
Capitalism, Brother Macy, is communism. Lesson 17 touched on communism. Communism was the.
Oh, I thought you were still asking about propaganda.
Oh, no.
What he was doing to combat what was going on at that time. Okay.
My bad. Communism was lesson 17. That was the leading ideology in opposition to I don't know if that's capitalism, because not necessarily democracy, but that was a huge movement in Mr. Garvey's time. But Mr. Garvey gave his opinions on communism. Although there may have been some things in which we could agree with in regards to the principles, its founding was not for our people, and its founders did not speak highly of our people. So Mr. Garvey said that, if it's not made by us, not made for us, such as communism, leave it alone and let them succeed. Okay. After communism, what do we need to know? Economics. We're back to economics. Karl Marx don't know you. Yes, sir. Karl Marx was the founder of communism. He spoke little and wrote even less about Negroes. I forget that quote exactly, but Karl Marx didn't necessarily care for our people, according to history. Lesson 18, what do we need to know? We need to go out here and make some money on a global scale.
That coincides with number 10 of the aims and objectives.
What does?
This the one that you're on now.
Yes, it does.
It's commerce or in industry.
Yes. Commerce and industry, infrastructure. Commercial and industrial. See the transactions or intercourse. I don't know.
Commercial and industrial transactions.
Commercial and industrial transactions. So commerce and industry. Again, I look at this as an evolution of economy. Economy speaks economy teaches on a personal level, on a organizational level. Commerce and industry, that's when you're getting on a industrial level, a somewhat international. But that's when we're really talking nation building. And it talks about basically what would I say from root to table. I forgot the term, but from cultivating, from growing something in the ground, in our ground, pulling it out of the ground with our hands, cultivating it with our hands, and then creating it into a final product that we could sell on a commercial market. That was the difference between commerce and industry, would be more so pulling it from the ground. But Mr. Garvey explained the entire process. We must understand the entire process. If we're really talking self-initiative, nation building, as self-initiative says, we should not look to rely for anyone to do anything that we can do for ourselves. And, as Mr. Garvey said, what man has done, man can do. What other nations can do, we can do as a people. So commerce and industry, that relates to, as Brother Malik was saying, the 10th aim and object of the UNIA, to have a worldwide commercial, what does it say exactly? Is it commercial and industrial?
Commercial and industrial transactions.
Right. So yes, that's exactly aim number 10 is explained in detail in lesson 18. Lesson 19, we got 4 more lessons. Lesson 19, we're still going out into the world. Yeah, I think this is where we're still going out into the world, interacting with people.
Oh, it has something to do with our personality.
It has something to do with personality to an extent, but yes, we're trying to build the UNIA. We're trying to grow membership. What type
winning
of attitude?
winning mankind by kindness.
There it is. Winning mankind by kindness. Very straightforward. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but Mr. Garvey reminds us, towards the end of the text, even after we talk about man and how to expect wickedness from a man, just based on the history, based on what we have gone through as a people, and what we've been put through, there's certain expectations that we should have. But Mr. Garvey also tells us that we should lead with kindness, and kindness can turn away wrath, and how giving, kindness to the children will help us to get support of the parents, but that we must lead with kindness. I believe Mr. Garvey says that it's the responsibility of every member of the UNIA to be kind. He says that, and I'm paraphrasing in that lesson. All right, lesson 20, after we talk about winning mankind by kindness, What do we? What do we? What's important? We're closing out the lessons. So this is almost like closing out our lives. We're getting ready to, transition. What's important?
You have to have a purpose, like living for something.
There you go. Living for something. And as Brother Najee said, living for something, having purpose. Yep.
Leaving a legacy.
Leaving a legacy. Mr. Garvey says we're doing this for our progeny. Things that we're doing should be for the Negro race in perpetuity. I think that's the right word. But it's nothing we're not doing anything for an immediate gain. It's for long term. It's for our great grandchildren to inherit. So living for something, having a purpose, and that purpose for us is our future generations. Lesson 21, we're getting to the last two lessons. Some of my, all of these lessons I really love. So. Lesson 21, as we close out, what do we need to know as leaders, as we build and as we teach and as we talk about the UNIA? Brother Mason's got the last two, history of the UNIA. And 5-year plan. So history of the UNIA is what it is. But as leaders, as officers, as we go out to build, I think the history of UNIA is one of the best lessons that we can use. It talks about the successes of the UNIA. It talks about what it takes to establish a division. It talks about what are the important documents for a new division? What should a new division be focused on? How to, how to carry on a meeting. So history of UNIA really is the black print for a new division. That's really a new division will want to spend a lot of time making sure they understand what Mr. Garvey is saying in the history of the UNIA. And that's something that as Division 421, you all have been, we kind of have incorporated that into our normal process at this point. But touching on the achievements of the UNIA and why our people should be a part of the UNIA. So it's a bit of a persuasion what the UNIA has done, basically. And lesson 22 is the 5-year plan. Talks about basically the future of the UNIA. Mr. Garvey says that the 5-year plan was described as the best economic strategy to fulfill the aims and objects, or to carry out the aims and objects of the UNIA. So as Division 421, that is one of the things that we have discussed very much in detail over the past few years, is modernizing the 5-year plan and really trying to implement the 5-year plan for our lifetime. So any questions, comments on the lessons of Course of African Philosophy?
Was it, I know it's a weird question, but was it ever revealed like what the other unwritten lessons were about?
It's it's committed to memory. Ross, what are your thoughts? I have some opinions. Nothing has been officially stated to me, but I will say in my 4 years of study of this text, I do feel that there are some things that are discussed in the text, but it's not necessarily called a lesson. And those are the things that I take away as kind of unwritten lessons. But Ross, what are your thoughts before I say anything else?
Okay. As far as documented evidence of the other lessons, I haven't seen it. So it's still a question in my mind, what were they? But these were the 22 solid lessons that Charles L. James, PG Charles L. James had okayed. But I still don't know what the other 20 lessons are.
I guess everything is in here. Maybe they broke it up in a different manner. Because if they were really important, they would have put them in here.
Well, see, that's what I say. I like what you said, Sister Diane. Mr. Garvey said that everything is in the text. What I see, my 1 second. For me, like I said, and this may be my personality, on how I look at it, how I teach it. There's no lesson specifically titled health. But that is something that Mr. Garvey talks about in the course of African philosophy. There's no lesson titled confidence, but that's also something else that Mr. Garvey talks about in the lessons and the importance of that. Discipline, there's no lesson specifically titled discipline. So, as Ross Marvin said, I'm not aware of any specific documented, these are the 20 unwritten lessons. But in my study of Mr. Garvey and his writings, I can see things that become repetitive, things that he continues to emphasize over time. And for me, that's where I get the lessons from. I didn't have 20. Another unwritten lesson of each of the lessons of each of the 20. So if you take lessons 1 through 20, they all talk about a specific aspect, but they all can be reversed as well. In regards to, lesson 1 talks about intelligence and what the benefits of intelligence, but a hidden lesson is the detriments of ignorance. Lesson 2 talks about the benefits of being a leader, but you can also apply the detriments of being a follower, not being a leader yourself. So that's another thing that I look at is the contrast of each of the first 20 lessons and how Mr. Garvey speaks of the benefit, but it also makes you think of the detriment of the opposite. Good question, though, Sister Diane, but I guess the long answer is there's no official recording that we are aware of. I can ask Brother Shaka Barak. He's one of the other last living students, not of Mr. Garvey, but he took the course under Charles L. James. So he's one individual that may know. Any other questions?
Yes, when is this going to be part of the study group?
Great question. And that's why we're going over this. This will become part of our study group this coming Tuesday. Moving forward for the next about 6 months, we'll be studying the course of African philosophy.
I wanted to say, President John, that definitely this is going to be part of our next study group, and it's going to last, as you just said, 6 months. But I want to request of you, President John, that you allow the time for us to finish race first. Because if we only have 2 or 3 more lessons in race first, I think that we shouldn't create a new time to finish race first, but we should do it within the study group, because this will show respect to our education coordinator. And also, we will keep in line that these study groups, we won't start something unless we take it to the finish line, because all the books are important, just as message to the people is important. But I want to request of you, President John, that you delay starting message to the people until Race First is finished, and I think we only need 3 or 4 more lessons to finish it. I don't think we should create a new time to do Race First when it's part of the study group, and anything we start, if we start philosophies and opinion, we should take it to the finish line. If we start message to the people, we should take it to the finish line. If we start Race First, we should take it to the finish line. And by not enabling this to go to the finish line, I feel that that's not the best move we can make. So President John, I'm asking you to consider this in your thoughts. No matter what, we're going to do message to the people next, and it's going to go on for 6 months. So whether we started this Tuesday or we started 3 weeks from now when we're able to finish Race First, it's no different. We're still going to go to message to the people, and we're still going to spend the next 6 months. So out of respect for our education coordinator and for those who's been attending the Race First study group, I'm requesting of you that our Tuesday sessions should be used to complete Race First before we start message to the people. Race First.
Race First. Understand, President Rock. Well, let me first thing. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Hear you loud and clear. But you also did say the time change. So you were aware of the Saturday Race First, because one thing I'm trying to clarify. I did not plan to have it incompleted. We were planning to finish the text just at a different time slot.
That is not good, because that means that those who attend at a different time slot, they have to create time within their schedule to attend at a different time slot. But we know that the education study group is.
Can't hear you that well, Brother Roth.
No, I'm saying that it's created at a different time slot, and I don't think that is necessary, meaning that the study group is on Tuesday nights. And if we've been doing something for the last month, 2 months on Tuesday nights, we should allow that time to finish so we can finish that part of the study group of Race First. So that way members and officers and coordinators wouldn't have to create an additional time within their weekly schedule to finish something that is scheduled to be, that is already scheduled on Tuesday nights. So I'm just asking you to think about it. I'm not asking you to give us an answer right now, but it would be respectable if we can take it to the finish line. Because no matter what, we're going to go to course of African philosophy once we finish Race First, and we're going to be locked in it for the next 6 months. So to spend another 2 weeks or 3 weeks so we can bring Race to First to the finalization, I don't think it will be detrimental to the course of African philosophy. So I want you to think about that, President John.
Understand.
So Brother John, to that I would say that I was willing to be flexible, but I did note that, and that was one of my concerns, that not everyone that were attending the Tuesday night sessions were able to transition to the Saturday sessions. And I did note that the number of attendees on Saturday was a lot less than in the Tuesday night session. So that's, I try to assess when we were doing the switch, how many people would be able to switch gears to Saturday, but the numbers kind of spoke on Saturday because there weren't as many as attend during the week. So that was mainly my concern. They got into a Tuesday routine, in other words.
I understand. Two things I will say. One, we discussed this in February. Prior to starting the Race First study, we knew that there was a time crunch, and we knew that come September, we had a curriculum. So that is the first thing. Was this is not a this is not a new thing that I'm putting on the calendar. Second thing is 2 weeks is not much. Yes, in the grand scheme of things. Ross, you also know, as an instructor, starting 2 weeks later, starting 2 weeks later means that we finish 2 weeks later. And, that's one of the things, I would like to have this completed, then we can begin to focus on other things. But I understand 2 weeks is not major. Last thing on the 2 weeks, though, is this is our officers training, and the importance of officers training. So those are my 2 or 3 comments. Sister Reveille. Oh, Ross Martin.
Can I ask if in 2025 we're going to do course of African philosophy again?
Potentially.
That's why I'm saying we should, because we're going to do it again next year, and we've been doing it every year. We have never missed a year of course of African philosophy. So therefore, since we're going to be doing it, and most likely we're going to be doing it in the summer again, like how we did it this summer. So to allow that 2-3 weeks for us to finish Race First, it ain't going to be so bad, because we will still be starting course of African philosophy again next year. And not only that, but we'll be doing it for the next 6 months once we start, whether this month or next month. So we have to take things to the finish line, and we can't stop before we cross the finish line. So I'm just saying, President John, and as our education coordinator, First Lady VP just said, that there's a drop off in attendance, and it's also making people have to reschedule their weekend plans. So I'm just begging of you, President John, for us to be able to finish Race First on the Tuesday nights before we start message to the people. You don't have to answer no, but think about it before Tuesday, so that way we can, whatever we start, let's cross the finish line before we start something new. Not new, but something different.
I hear you. Delaying officers training, I'm having a hard time accepting that at this time, but I understand what you're saying, Ross.
So, Brother John, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Isn't all of it officers training? The big scheme of things? There's some overlapping in the 2 books, but
That's a valid point. It's a valid point. Yeah, from an education standpoint, that's a great point. It all is important, and we all, officers should be learning all of the information.
About splitting it up an hour for each on the same night.
I would rather finish one and then transition to the second.
All right.
Even though you say, President John, message to the people is a course for training of leadership for local officers.
Yes.
Consul General Farouk Mohammed had said that Race First is a training for the whole UNIA government, because it actually talks about what we actually went through, our day-by-day struggle in all the different areas, and to sacrifice the next 3 weeks and so on, so that way those who have been part can get the full course. I don't think it's anything where we're gonna lose anything too much, because remember, once we start message to the people, we're gonna go 6 months solid. And not only we're gonna be 6 months solid, that's gonna bring us into next year, but also when fall come again, we're gonna go back to message to the people again. And every year we've been to message to the people. So there's nothing wrong for us to just take race first to the finish line, and then we do message first, message to the people after that. Just asking you to think about it, President John. Don't make no decision right now, but think about it and have mercy for us, because you are a hard president. You, you stick to the schedule,
Yes, sir.
no matter what.
Yes, sir.
But because we need 2 or 3 more Tuesdays to finish race first, I'm begging of you, President John, to have love for your education coordinator, so that way she doesn't have to create a new day to finish race first, when we've been going through race first for the last 2 months and we just need like 3 more sessions to finish it.
I understand. I will take that into consideration.
Thank you, President.
So we've been, it's
Thank you,
7:17.
President John.
We're gonna close out. I'll finish it in a second. See, everybody, y'all, everybody got something to say. We're gonna close out for Course of African Philosophy, and we will move into member share. Sister Diane. Sister Diane, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Would you do me the honor of organizing the member share, please?
Organizing?
Hosting, basically. So just if you could call on the sisters, allow sisters to share, then call on the brothers.
Okay, let me try to see all who are on the call. Hold on a second. I'm sorry. Can I pass it to someone else, because I'm not able to see all the people for some reason.
Sure. Lady President, will you be able to host member share?
You're muted, Brother John.
I'm muted.
Well, just now it seemed like, okay.
Lady President, you there? Okay.
Everybody.
Brother Malik, calling you back in.
Here.
Oh.
Can you please help me out and host the member share?
All right. Let me see who's up.
Thank you, brother.
Well, Sister Diane, did you have anything to share?
Just that we're kind of wrapping up race first, but we're gonna do a comprehensive review of all of the material, so that if anyone, well, we'll know if it's gonna be on Tuesday again, but anyone who weren't able to hop on for whatever reason is welcome to be a part of it. We have some really exciting discussions, and there's a lot to discuss because so much is covered in that book. So I just want to just express appreciation for the current class and all the people who have been attending, and then to express an invitation for whoever wants to join the remainder of it, join in the discussion and things of that nature. So thank you, and whoever wants to come on board, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you. Sister Reveille, did you have anything to share?
Hey, everyone again. I was going to ask a few questions about the African philosophy course. First, they're quick questions, I think, but I wanted to ask if it would be every week on a Tuesday for the next 6 months.
Yes.
Okay, and if the African philosophy book that we started tonight, is that the only book in the course? Or is there other books or,
Basically everything is from the African philosophy book. Do you have
Okay.
one?
Okay, no, yeah,
Essentially 3 books, Sister Everly,
it's
that we
gonna,
should be studying as a baseline. 1 is the course of African philosophy, 2 is the book Race First, and 3 is Philosophies and Opinion. Those 3
Okay.
books should be.
But no, she was asking as far as the books for the African philosophy course.
yes, correct.
Yes.
So is it just that one book for the course over
Yeah.
6 months?
Just for that course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, each book has its own course.
Okay, and I'm asking because it's going to be every week on a Tuesday, and it's not a long book. It's only like 200 pages or so. So that's why,
So
yeah, so that's why I was wondering kind of why it would take so long, 6 months, and we're doing it every week.
Yeah. When you get into it, you'll see.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Reveille, we could probably read the text in maybe 3 sessions, 3, 4, maybe 5 sessions. We could read the text. The course is not just about being able to read the text, but it's the interpretation is kind of where we spend half of the time, is the interpretation of what Mr. Garvey is saying, but also a modernization. Some of the writing is a little bit outdated, or some of the examples may be outdated. We have to apply them to modern time.
Okay, and are you still doing, like you mentioned they did in the past with writing out the lessons?
That's a great question. That's voluntary. I would love for that to be a requirement. But that's voluntary at this time. We have a comprehensive examination that we do at the end of the 6 months.
Okay.
And that it's almost just as equivalent to writing it out. But
Okay,
writing it out is something between you and Mr. Garvey.
okay, understood.
Are
And
you
lastly,
sending out questions again this year?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm sorry, what was that question?
He asked, were we sending out questions for the course? There will be questions every week.
Okay, got it, that's good. And one more question was about the exam. How many questions?
1,000.
I think it's about 360.
Really?
Yes.
From this one book?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, our level of interpretation and the understanding, I feel it's unmatched,
Okay, and are the course classes every Tuesday recorded?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so we can go back and use that for review.
Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, promoting our YouTube UNIA 421 YouTube page. We have, for the past 3 years, we've been documenting the course and kind of what we go over. So really, you can get a lot of it right there.
Mhm. Is it a proctored exam or open book?
Open book.
Great. That's all. Thank you.
Yes. Also, to Sister Reveille, one book I would add to what Ross Marvin recommended, if we can call it a book, would be the Constitution. So, Message to the People, Race First, Philosophy and Opinions, Constitution. You've got a very, very good starter kit.
Okay, and one more thing. Is it timed or not timed?
It is time, 6 hours.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Great questions. Brother Malik?
Who is Sister Brittany?
She's not here at the moment. It's just me.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to the fellas. New member, Brother Henderson.
Oh, Brother Malik, office.
Peace. I'm a sister. My name
Oh,
is unisex.
okay. I
And
see a
mostly
dude on
men,
your
our names
picture.
are building. I run a program called Gangsters to Growers, where we employ and train formerly incarcerated people. So that's kind of my little screensaver thing. I don't have much to add or ask right now. I am very new. I caught this meeting. A lot of times if stuff isn't on my, well, that's a question. That's a question there. Is there any way that and maybe I can help with this, because as an organizer, I know we're not to suggest things without offering to do them. Is there any way that I can help, like, put this on a calendar invite? Because I've missed a few of the meetings because I get caught up in all the things, and if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. Or should that just remain my responsibility to put the meetings on the calendar,
Yeah,
on my own calendar?
yeah, that's second and fourth Sunday every month.
Okay.
Yeah, second Sunday, 5 p.m. That is a good suggestion.
Because I bet you a bunch of people, you know, though we should be more responsible, there's probably a few people that are missing this meeting just because it's slipping their mind because of all the other things we got going on.
Understand.
Yeah, I use the calendar on my phone so it'll alert me.
Yes. And
So
is there a group calendar I could send out, like having everyone's email address, and I send it out and put it on everybody's calendar? Or is that too much right now? Too much too soon?
No, let me see. I'm trying to figure out how that works actually though. Because it works for me. I don't know if like that is something, is that something that each individual has to enable?
Well, I guess I do use Google Calendar.
Yeah, me too. So when I send it
Yeah.
out, it creates something for me. But I don't know if people that don't have Google if they necessarily have that option.
Right. Will that work for them? Right. I think Microsoft also picks up on stuff that's put on calendars, but yeah, I understand. Yeah. If that's not something that would be helpful, then to more than just me, then I'll just right now, while I'm on this call, put this on my calendar for every second and fourth Sunday.
Yeah, 5 to 8.
Yeah, but that's something I'll look into, trying to enable an automatic Google notification. But so, let me ask you something, Sister Abby O'Doon.
Yes.
Is that something that the individual has to accept, or does that become an automatic then on their calendar?
Whether they accept it or not, it'll show up. It'll be translucent if they don't say yes. At least that's how it is on my calendar. If I do say yes, it becomes there's another word for it, but a solid color.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it's just you probably understand. I mean, we've had at times we've sent everything out to everyone, but some people are like, "Hey, nah, this is a little bit too much."
Oh yeah, too much notifications and all those things.
So that's been a balance, and that's why Brother Malik, and we've had, generally we leave that to the individual, but I do like what you're saying, and I think for mass meetings, that would be I think that's a good.
Yeah, just brought that up too.
If I may say, President John.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody should remember that in the beginning of the year, the first meeting that we have as the UNIA for the year, for each year, is to go over the calendar and the schedule for the whole year, from January 1st to December 31st. And we have to respect our president, because before 2024 started, he put together the calendar and the schedule for the whole of 2024. And it includes the second and the fourth Sunday mass meetings, but it includes more than that. It includes the study groups, it includes the events, and it includes a lot more. So I just put the calendar for 2024 in the chat. So if anybody want to know what the schedule is from now to the end of the year, you will see this in the first issue for the year. And President John has it on the screen. And my sister who just spoke, sister, I don't recall your name.
It's a Biodun, but you can call me Abby.
Sister Abby,
Yes.
if you can't even put the calendar together, remember there's 100 other different areas that we need you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I also would like to have it set up. Our Gangster Girls program ends in December, and they started in March. The next one starts in March. I want to have it where for instance, and I guess maybe I'm taking from the group because I'm just like my needs, but it's really about these young people, these young adults from the hood that's 16 to 30, right? I had an issue where our Black History educator had moved, and it was a bi-weekly class, and then the brother who came in his place was like, he started with Garvey, but it wasn't like he had no PowerPoints, no nothing, just conversation, and then he had to move on. So I'm really looking to see, how even if it's just someone from the UNIA coming to speak once to do something on Garvey, but also we can source somebody for some Black history, overall Black history from UNIA to help to teach, educate these young people that get paid to sit down and, just learn. So just how can I add these young people? And then also we're adding community hours to their programming next year where they have to complete it. And I want to see if I can have one or two young people just stay with UNIA, just finding a way that, just get these young people into all the things. Cause they're heavily distracted on purpose and all these things. So, all right, that's it.
Sister Abby,
Yes, ma'am.
like how old are the children?
16 to 30.
You could
So
get them to join the UNIA and let them
right,
they're the next generation.
right. It has to
And let
start
them
with
sign
them
up for
being
the course to
educated.
learn something, especially the course in African philosophy.
Right.
That would
Now
be an excellent course for that age group.
yeah. So the thing is getting them, we pay them $18 an hour, 40 hours a week until 5 o'clock. The problems I've had over the years as we've been building is getting them to do anything off the clock. So that's why I'm like, how can I get someone to come to them and then have some people do their hours, their required hours with UNIA?
You should require them to join the UNIA. That's only like a couple hours of their check. Let them pay for it. Give them some responsibility.
Easier said than done, sis.
I know.
Yeah, so I'm just teaching. I'm just trying to share with you the ways since 2016. Well, I've been organized since 2012, which is a very short time. But with this specific demographic I've been with, it's like pulling teeth. So we're just trying to find ways to integrate them and educate them so that they want to do it. You know what I mean? And I found the way is when they're getting paid and they have to sit in this class, having someone come to them, and then now implementing this new thing where some of them will have to come, I'll have a list and one of it will be UNIA meetings and they can do some of their hours by showing up there. And it has to be required because they will not make that choice on their own. They will not, So it's a slow build we're on.
I would make the course required. I would make the African philosophy course required.
Hold on,
It has some really good stuff for young people in there.
Yeah, Sister Diane, hold on 1 second. Sister Abby O'Doon, I hear what you're saying. And I'm on board. I support what you are saying. You're basically saying we have an opportunity to share some of this information with a group of young people, but we need committed individuals to accept that responsibility. Is that kind of where you're going?
Yes, a certain time a week, every other week, starting in next March.
March. Is it in a particular location?
Pittsburgh Yards. Well, actually, our office is going to stay at Pittsburgh Yards in Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta. But the program is going to be moving close to the West End train station at the Murph, because we can't keep monopolizing all the conference rooms at Pittsburgh Yards because it's a co-working space. So, yeah, West Side, Southwest Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah, and Sister Diane, I understand what you're saying. That is the end goal.
That's the end goal. It's a slow build. Sorry, go
Yes,
ahead.
you know, the door is being opened, and this is our opportunity to engage, you know, with this a population that we've talked so highly about.
President John.
Yes, sir.
What age group does Brother James work with?
Anybody that's 40 and under, pretty much.
Maybe we need to get with him and develop something.
Well, it will be between him and Sister Diane. So
Sister Diane.
There's a little bit of overlap. This would be youth and education. So Sister Abby O'Doon has given us a fair heads up. She's talking about March of next year. This is enough time for us to plan. We do need to stay engaged with her and make sure that, you know, if any plans change, we're making that communication.
And I'll make it my responsibility to show up as much as I can to these meetings. I'm trying to, as I've been building the Come Up Project and Gangster Growers, where we have worker-owned businesses, and the long game is worker-owned factories. And the businesses are small, right? We're still just, you know, getting our footing. Though we've had press and all these things, which is helpful for raising funds. I just know that I myself, as a community organizer, has been disconnected and haven't fully joined the organization. So MXGM and UNIA are like, I'm like, I gotta get active, get back active myself, so that as I'm bringing this to the youth, I can't tell them, hey, you need to join this because Marcus got da-da-da, and I'm myself aren't a member. Right. So that's been my purpose. And then again, there's this opportunity with the Black History course that they didn't even really get enough this year as they had in the past year. We just expanded to a 10-month program and all these things. So making that requirement of volunteer hours, will make sure that we'll have at least one or two of the 15 to 20 youth, be plugged into this space, and maybe hopefully inspire other young people that are in the program to enter this space. And I mean, because 16 to 30, they're on their phone. I got a young person, he's still on the block, though he show up every day. They're mostly formerly incarcerated, been through, if they haven't been incarcerated, then they've been mentally, physically, and sexually abused, foster care, all these things. So, the reason why the brothers are like, yeah, it's not that easy, just join UNIA, is, y'all already understand. They've been worked on heavily, these young people, to not care about each other, themselves, or their community. And it's really, on the low, I'm just like, this is Black Panther program. I'm just trying to get them to be active by paying them, this money, $18 an hour. And then that, join these businesses at the end, worker ownership, yada, yada. So, okay. I am glad that I came on this call. Finally, I got on the call. It's been very helpful. And again, like y'all said, if y'all can develop or help, or if somebody already has developed African history / Black history programming, and it can all be Marcus Garvey. Because I know what I'm hearing is that maybe with the African philosophy, all the things are tied in, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it's just that, and if it could just be brought to us, that would, and we will pay, whether it's paying the person and providing like an organizational, that's a question. Is there like an organizational, because we're also a member, the Come Up Project, we're a member of like Black Sustainability Network, we're a member of the National Black Food Justice Alliance. Is there an organizational fee that we could pay? My goal is to get this money and spread it. So I'm about to go on a whole fundraising journey these last 3 months, so that I can just get these folks to Yeah, so I would like to pay, if there isn't already, I would like to have some kind of organizational fee. While we pay somebody in person, there's also a fee that the Come Up Project is paying into the UNIA that can go towards building businesses or programming or whatever.
Great question. We have not, in the UNIA, there's no policy of organizational membership. Everything is individual, but that is something we can, discuss as a division on how we can encourage organizational participation. So as of right now, there's no precedent for that. but currently, the way we've done it is more simple. As long as if you're a organizer or a business owner, as a member, your entire body, you basically get de facto representation of the UNIA. So through individual membership, that's how we've kind of done organizational relationships.
Last question, and that's understandable. Is there any, because I haven't looked at no documents, nothing. I just happened to look at my email and see that the meeting was today because I missed it the last time. I was like, let me jump on. So that's my bad. I'm sorry. I'm prepared. Is there boy. Oh, is there any kind of fund that, I mean, besides, because I understand how UNI has always worked. So it is the individual members putting their money towards, and then the money goes towards whatever, all the plans. And is there like a specific fund that goes into like economic empowerment and building businesses, or the money we individually give gets spread around?
Put that fund in the chat, President John.
What fund?
The 5-year plan.
The UNIA fund.
If I may add to what President John has
the
said.
Cashapp.
Will do.
Oh, the Cashapp.
President Ross has a comment. He's a long-time active member. Go ahead, President Ross.
Yes, how we've done it, Sister Abby, when it comes to organizations, that means that the coordinator for the organization can join the UNIA, as President John said, and then your organization also that you represent would also be a member because you're a member.
Yep.
Okay. And remember, First Lady Vice President did suggest having the youths become members, but we have to remember that anybody under 18, in order for them to join the UNIA, they have to get the appearance approval. So, and membership is free for youths under 18. Yes. There's no dues paying. They don't start paying the dues until they reach 18. So keep those things in mind too, Sister Abby.
Okay. And I'm thinking now, like one of the graduates, well, she's about to graduate, Georgie Ann Sinclair, she's actually from Jamaica. So I wonder if she could be like, she may be someone that I can like directly get in now, because she's of that mindset. So anyway, just that thought.
A mindset is a terrible thing to waste. But listen to this. You mentioned another program, the GEL program. What are the courses they're learning with that one?
Oh, Gangsters to Growers, that's the only program we're running. 2 days a week, they work and learn on Black-owned farms. In the morning, they do two mornings of yoga, one of capoeira, one of Muay Thai, and one African drumming. The young ladies and the young men are separated with some of those, except for the yoga and capoeira. And then Monday, parenting, herbalism. Soleil and Professor Griff, who are, they're married. They individually with the young ladies and young men, they kind of like a rite of passage program, separately work with them. And we have a space for guest speakers on the B week of their A week when they come in. Political education, so they learn how to navigate local government, learn how to organize through the Working Families Party and Sister Mary Hooks, who's known for organizing in Atlanta, and a city planner sister that works in the zoning office. Fitness, on Monday. And then on the B week, art therapy and writing. They do storytelling, so like a film class, a music class, nutritional cooking. Every other week, it's a vegan chef. Co-op education or business education, marketing, you know, all that is attached. A financial coach every other week. So these classes are weekly and bi-weekly. So some of them are emergency prep. They learn how to purify water, build shelter, stop the bleed, gunshot wounds. They also, I don't know who's on the call, but everybody, you know, they ain't no real security when you talk on the phone. So they also learn gun safety, but we don't advertise that. Group therapy, weekly, the young ladies and young men do that separately, and then they have access to the therapist that we pay for on their own. Environmental responsibility, and then like the Black History was all messed up this year. And then they read books. This is the first year we've done a 10-month program. It's been 1 month, a couple of 3-month programs, a couple of 6 months. This is the first 10-month program, so it's kind of a pilot. They do professional development. So I said that to say we brought in some new staff that I realized I need more movement-oriented people, and I've already had to make some shifts. So they didn't even get through their first book yet, which was Sister Soldier, No Disrespect. Then they have a Fred Hampton book, Malcolm X, and Collective Courage that talks about cooperatives and how Black folks have always been doing cooperatives and mutual aid. So those are all their classes. Next month in October, most of those classes kind of go away, except for the Friday classes. Then political education will always be there. And so same thing with those morning classes. They're going to work 3 days on a farm. And then the first day on Monday, they are canvassing. Because like I said, I'm an organizer. I ran a community garden, and you know, I'm known in that Black agriculture world, but I'm not a farmer. So they will be going door to door. There's a potential for us to open a cooperative grocery store in the AUC Center near Clark, Atlanta. My uncle happened to get the contract to build affordable housing, eco-friendly affordable housing, and wants to make sure there's a preschool, a community member-owned grocery store, and a shared kitchen space. So I'm kind of part of that organizing with the grocery store. So the youth will be going door to door to do food surveys, to see what folks are eating, and how much they're willing to pay for Black food. I know people that have chicken, fish, you know, all the things, and vegetables and fruit. So I'll be sourcing, after giving a couple of bags free, after we collect some data, we'll be giving a couple of rounds of food free, and then trying to get people to pay on the third round so we can get Black folks used to buying food from Black people again. And then they'll also be doing they'll have some housing justice kits that they'll be handing out as well. And this is the first year we're doing that, making the young people canvas. So I'm very excited about that.
Abby O'Doon.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'll be going.
No, yeah,
That's amazing.
No, we need to have more discussions. Officers, I'd like to, see if we can make some space on our executive body, for, potentially for some of the talents that Sister Abby O'Doon can bring. But Sister Abby O'Doon, I think we just, you already doing a lot of the stuff that we talk about, teach, and promote. At this point, we need to strengthen our relationship, find out, how can us as a UNIA, how can we help and support access to growers, and vice versa, likewise.
Yes. Yes, finally I'm here. I'm sad that I haven't joined sooner. And eventually after, next year with canvassing, I would love for, maybe mid-year, after they learned enough, they can start, but it's a lot. There's so many things to canvas around. Yes. But I would love for them to even have like a little, we would be probably inundating people with too much information. But yeah. I would love for them to even start, because that's my biggest criticism since being an organizer in Atlanta, since the Occupy movement, when I joined Occupy the Hood, is that I was even part of the Cop City stuff. And my biggest criticism was like, we're not going door to door. We are not going to get the masses, my people. if we are not going door to door, panels, webinars, events, press conferences, is not going to get it. And so it's one of my biggest things. Like, if you're an organization and folks ain't going door to door, then we just going to keep spinning our wheels and talking to each other, and it becomes an ego thing of who knows the most. Then, you know, how are we reaching the masses? So that's what this program is also about. But besides the 50 other things, is like getting that class divide of the knowledge, a class system based on knowledge, kind of breaking that thing down. Because everywhere I'm going, the hood ain't there. And it's just the same people talking to each other, and it ain't no movement. So yeah, I'm here, and I'm just glad, proud to know y'all, and that y'all been holding down this space and keeping this organization alive. And I'm just trying to let's get it. Let's get our people. It's time to get our people. The robots and stuff are coming. I don't want to sound crazy if you don't, understand what I'm saying, but they're about to take people's jobs. These folks are greedy. They don't want to pay nobody. Jobs are going to be lost. We're going to have people in the street fighting over chicken. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's 10, 20, 30, or 100 years from now, we have to prepare. And like we tell the youth, we are preparing for 360 years. That's what, what we plant in, I don't think we're going to see, you know what I'm saying? So, thank you.
No, we don't do the work for ourselves.
That's what they do. They prepare for 360 years.
We don't do the work for ourselves. We plant seeds for trees we'll never sit under.
Brothers and sisters, we do need to proceed. Sister Abigail, do it again. We need to keep in contact. What's the best way to is your best way of contact, text or email?
Either or. Okay. Text is good. Text is good.
I primarily use email, but
I check my email. I check my email.
Okay. We will continue this discussion, and as I said, I'd like to bring you in on some of our higher level organizational discussions, and so that we can make sure we're providing the right support for the programs that you discuss.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah, thank you for letting us use your people to get the shrine together for Garvey Day.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, that was great. So you met anyway.
Yeah.
You met again for the growers. Amen. Okay, good.
Yeah, I had a presentation for the capoeira at Garvey Day. So the members should be familiar with Gangsters to Growers.
Okay, dope miss. Okay.
Thank you. Brother Malik, I think we need to proceed. And I think we missed some officers on our ladies' side.
Yeah, just saw Sister Diane.
Okay.
That was it.
I think Lady President and probably Sister Cecily. I think she's there as well.
See, Cecily is Lady President. You here?
Sister Rod Ebony?
I'm here. I just got a loud background. Greetings, family. Greetings.
No problem. Anything you want to share with us? Anything we need to be aware of?
Yeah, come see me on the 1st and 3rd Fridays. Got a loud background. I got 1st and 3rd Fridays, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Black Cross nurses. For now, I am working on Sundays being the Lady President's meeting. After our mass meetings on Sundays at 8 p.m. I'm working on, like I said, the Lady President's meeting. It's a meeting besides the Black Cross nurses, and I'm also working on the meetings for the Motor Corps. All of these initiatives and programs that are beginning are very imperative to the UNIA-ACL Division 420. And I want to start off by the fundamentals, the education, knowing what it is, what we're doing, how we're doing it. Of course, we are working on fundraising. And like I said, I've been into that conversation in the Black Cross nurses. I don't want to go into details too much of that. I just want to give everybody, keep everybody abreast of those meetings, and to be to be aware of the communication about those meetings, so you can know and be informed about what's all going on in the community and what we're doing in the community with our people. Anything else? Like I say, I don't really want to go into too much detail because I go into a lot of detail at the meetings, at the Black Cross Nurse meetings. And like I said, I'm working on the Lady President's meetings Sundays at 8 o'clock. And I'll get to you all with that information. And we can talk and we can converse and we can share information. We can give information and we can be a help to one another and do all of those good things that we're supposed to do and stay informed with one another. So that's all I got. God's grace, everyone. It's good to see each and every one of you here. Sending my love to each and every one of y'all. Grace first.
Grace first. Thank you, Lady President. Excellent job, excellent work with the Black Cross Nurse meeting Friday. We do need to continue to discuss fundraising, and I also support the Lady Presidents getting together and having discussions. That reminds me, Brother Malik also mentioned, I think this was at our last month's executive meeting, having presidents meetings. So something else that we're looking at, in addition to what Lady President said, we feel that the presidents as a whole, we need to be on the same page outside of the executive body. But that's something else for officers, presidents to look forward to. So again, Lady President is doing a great job. First and third Fridays, Black Cross Nurse meetings, and look forward to hearing about the Lady President's meetings on Sunday. So great job, Lady President. Please continue.
Yeah, not only, but having it before the parent body president's meeting.
Okay, got you. Makes sense. So when we go into the parent body president's meeting, we all on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Malik. So that would probably be, that sounds like first Saturday around. Well, it'll move around depending on the Wednesday.
Yeah, that's when we had the executive meeting.
Yeah, but it's not always, we don't always get a first Saturday before the first Wednesday, or a last Saturday before the first Wednesday. So that'll be something we'll have to kind of discuss as presidents and be in agreement to. But it sounds like it'll be first Saturday, or just generally.
Or just do a last
Saturday.
Last Saturday or last Sunday. Well,
I like that.
Rod Ebony trying to do the Sunday for the women president. So we'll figure it out.
I like last Saturday. Wrap up the month.
All right, last Saturday.
So officers, we'll talk more about that, but I am definitely, and President Ross said I'm a tough president. That's all right. We are Garveyites. I believe Mr. Garvey was a tough president general. In meetings, that's some of the fundamentals. We talked about paying dues. We all need to be dues paying active members, especially as officers. But as officers, that's probably the next biggest expectation, is being available for meetings. And I know that's tough, but we have to be able to sacrifice this time so that we can come together and make sure we really are on the same page as an organization. Brother Malik, I'll pass it back to you.
All right. Who is Brother Andrew Jonesboro? Attorney Imhotep, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Greetings, Africans. I don't have anything to share. Race first.
All right. Dr. Shams.
Race first.
Race first.
Yes. Next Sunday, I have a presentation coming up. It's going to be on the cause of our struggle and how we can survive, especially, you know, with the political atmosphere and what may or may not happen next year with that, you know, and what we need to be doing anyway as far as networking and helping one another. So that's next Sunday. You know, I look forward to everyone being there, and hope that it's a well received message. I look forward to participation. Race first.
Race first.
Thank you, Dr. Shams. Yes, Dr. Shams he agreed several months back. Fifth Sunday in September is reserved for Dr. Shams. So please join us next Sunday for that presentation.
All right. Minister Monte.
Next Sunday or the next mass meeting?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Yeah, fifth Sunday.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. I don't have too much to say. I was just tuning into the meeting. I look forward to listening to more.
Race first. Brother James.
Greetings, everybody. Race first. I don't have much. To those of you all who know, let's try to make sure that we all have a copy of Teach Me About Garvey in red, black, and green for the children. I'll put the link in the chat. Next, not this week, but the week after next, I'll be actually reading to a school, Slater Elementary. I'm actually going to be presenting the English and Spanish version of Teach Me About Garvey, just to kind of ingratiate the youth into who Mr. Garvey was, what Mr. Garvey did, the shoulders, how we stand on Mr. Garvey's shoulders today. And one thing that'll be unique about this one is we'll be talking about Mr. Garvey's presence in the Spanish-speaking part of the diaspora. So I'll be doing that. Then I'll also be traveling to Nashville, Tennessee next week, that same week, October the 1st, to read to a school there, to Teach Me About Garvey to the students there. I believe the school is going to be purchasing books, so that'll be a good thing, not just for me personally, but for the UNIA. That will definitely increase the presence of Mr. Garvey and the UNIA to our youth in Nashville and some of the schools here in Atlanta. But again, I'll put the link in the chat for anybody who wants to purchase a book, because we have to make sure that our youth do have content, especially in the form of literature, that introduces them to Mr. Garvey and some of those concepts of Garveyism and Black nationalism and universal African unity. But that's all I have, family. Race first.
Race first. Brother Art.
1 second for Brother James. No, just great work, Brother James. I told you by the end of the month, so I'll get with Ross Marvin and we'll, clarify where we are to get the case of books, Teach Me About Garvey for our division.
Thank you, Brother President. Race first.
Race first.
Race first, Sam.
Race first.
If there's any notifications that that the family needs or feels that would be beneficial to the organization to put in the whirlwind, let us know. And we'll put it in the whirlwind so the whole organization can get the information. Race first, that's all I had. Race first.
Race first.
I got a question for Brother Art. We didn't go over minutes from the previous meeting. Was there anything that was left unanswered, or any questions from the previous meeting that we were supposed to address today?
Hold on, let me go back here and see if there's anything I missed. What I have for September 8th, was mainly
September 8th.
the September 8th was the last UNIA meeting.
Yeah. Oh, that just seemed so far long ago.
Yep. Yeah, that was second
Sunday, rather, yeah.
Okay, I can
remember the topic was just UNIA versus USA Part 2. So we're mostly doing reading, but
yeah, that's what I have. It was mostly reading, and that's what I have. It was just you started reading and you read. Let's see. Let me go. Okay, you want me to go minute by minute?
No. I would just, is there anything major that you're aware of that we were supposed to follow up on in this meeting?
No, I don't have anything, John. President John. I just have the readings that were gone over.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Brother Art.
Research.
Brother Najee.
Yeah, race first family. I have one thing that's going on. I've been coordinating with Brother Gerald for the next Black Family Day. That's going to be on November 2nd. Same place at Akira's Cafe. Going to have speakers, entertainers, and prize giveaways. They have vendors in case anybody wants to vend as well. So yeah, I'm going to be making a flyer tonight, and I'll send it out to everybody. So that's just another event that's going on.
You making a flyer?
Yes.
Oh wow. All right. Appreciate your help, and
all right.
Appreciate the heads up. Thank
you. President Rice, you have anything to share? Brother Omesis, you ready?
Yes.
All right.
Greetings, family. Brother Omasius and Vice President of Business Development Coordinator. And we have been having our business development meetings every Thursday. And now we have also partnered with an organization called Operation Hope. And they will be doing financial literacy education for us at 7 o'clock on 7 to 8 on our Thursday meetings. And we normally have our business meeting directly afterwards. And this is their website here. And of course, so I mentioned this, the advanced economic opportunity by providing the tools they need to reach their goals. We help individuals of all ages by offering finance education, one-on-one coaching, courses on credit score improvement, as well as pathways towards homeownership and starting a business. So we are in partnership with this organization, and in order for us to continue, we do need members to register to participate. So put that link in the chat on how each person can register and for this. I sent Rick President John. Everyone. So in order to participate, these courses are free for our membership. So please, we encourage your participation opportunity. In order for us to build economically, we must master all the tools that are out there to be able to do so.
Brother Mason.
Brother Mason, you there?
Yes, I'm breaking up.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I went to mute. Can y'all hear me? I'm breaking up.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Breaking up.
Oh, sorry. But so these are tools that we need to be able to access the capital we need to prosper and build institutions. So I put the link in the chat for you guys to sign up. You can come here and hit register for events. And then when it comes up, it'll be a drop down for the financial literacy course. Here, you can just click it there. We have some other things here that people can register for as well. Put your name, your phone number in, hit submit, and we need you all to register for that in order for our partner to track participation. And of course, I'm sure that's for grants and everything. So please, if you plan on attending, click that link in the chat and get registered. We want to make sure we have accurate number before Thursday. That's at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and invite each and every one of you also to stay on afterwards for our business development. If you have business development ideas and want to know what we're doing, please tune in at 8 o'clock and stay tuned at 8. So thank you so much. That's my report, and I'll stop sharing.
Great job, brother.
Call ended. Call ended.
On you, President John.
Any questions so far for any of the officers? Okay. The Sister Cecily, does she have anything? We got through everybody.
I don't see her name.
But she be having a number. It don't be a name.
I don't see just a straight phone number.
All right, don't worry about it. The only thing I got, I'm just thinking about what Ross said with the delay. And I understand. The thing that I wasn't aware of was it all should be considered, a portion of training and education for officers. So, we'll definitely consider that. Most likely, we will delay the course of African philosophy. However, that does not mean we get 2 weeks off. That should mean 2 more weeks of race first. I've said this before. We need to try, and I don't understand, there's sometimes some things that we can't move around, but we need to be trying to make ourselves available certain times throughout the week. As presidents, we have to make ourselves available every first Wednesday at 8 p.m. for our National President's Call. So our Tuesday study group is a local, requirement and training for that national requirement. So Tuesdays, I need officers to be present. Study groups needs to become just as important as mass meetings and executive meetings. So study groups, business meetings, our spiritual meetings, obviously that's voluntary. But study groups those are very critical, not quote unquote required, but it is expected. I'll put it that way. So we'll look at the delay, but that doesn't mean that we get 2 weeks off. We need everybody attending Race First and actually preparing for an examination in Race First. So tune in, catch some of the video recordings that we've got on YouTube, but let's take our education serious, especially as officers. So thank you, Brother Malik. That's all I have.
All right. So if that's all, everybody put your black fist in the air, come off mute. Repeat after me. One God.
One God.
One God.
One God.
One aim.
One
Aim.
One destiny.
One
destiny.
destiny.
Africa.
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 For the Africans.
For the
Africans.
Those at home.
Those
At home.
Those abroad.
and those
abroad.
Those abroad.
Race first, fam.
Where you at,
Race
Papa?
first.
Race first.
Up you mighty race.
Up your mighty race, you can accomplish what you will.
All right. Officially over.
All right, Race First, family.
Race first.